What do you do when your government wants more from you than your conscience will allow? Most of us feel this somewhere. We want to be good citizens. We want to vote and to advocate and to care about the things that matter in the public square. And if we're honest, we also sense something pulling at us from the other direction. The political moment we're in keeps asking more from us than civic participation. It starts to feel like devotion, like identity, like the thing that will determine whether the world is safe or not. It starts to feel like worship. That's the question I want to focus on today. The book of Daniel introduces us to a man who's navigating something most of us have never had to face, and yet in smaller ways we face it regularly. Daniel is a Jew living in Babylon under a government he's not morally or ideologically aligned with. He didn't choose to be there. He was taken there. And yet Daniel serves the Babylonian government with remarkable competence and integrity. He rises through the ranks. He becomes indispensable. He contributes genuinely to the flourishing of a city and a government that are not his own. And then the government overreaches, as governments are known to do. King Darius issues a decree. For 30 days, all prayer must be directed to the king. No other God, no other petition, and no other name. Daniel reads the decree, and then he goes home, opens his windows toward Jerusalem, and prays to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob 3 times a day, as he had always done. Daniel doesn't organize a revolt. He doesn't withdraw into a community of the like-minded and refuse to engage. He simply will not give to the king the kind of allegiance that belongs only to God. And he pays for it with a night in the lion's den. What's striking about Daniel isn't only his courage, it's his consistency. He had served the empire faithfully for years. He kept his head down and wasn't looking for a fight. When the government functioned within its proper limits, he gave it his very best. When it crossed the line that no government is authorized to cross, he held firm. Daniel seems to have known, with a clarity most of us struggle to find, exactly where that line was. He was what we might call a resident alien, present, contributing, engaged, and also free, because his ultimate citizenship was somewhere else. In the 20th century, a German pastor named Dietrich Bonhoeffer faced a version of the same test at enormous personal cost. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, most of Germany's Protestant churches fell in line. They let the state redefine their membership, their message, and their identity. The church became an arm of the Führer's regime. Not because anyone announced that was happening, but because gradually the church had begun to depend on the empire's approval more than it depended on the person, work, and promises of Jesus. Bonhoeffer refused. He helped found what was called the Confessing Church, a movement of pastors and congregations who insisted that Jesus Christ, not the Führer, was the head of the church. He kept preaching. He trained pastors in underground seminaries when the state-approved institutions became instruments of propaganda. He understood that genuine love for Germany and genuine care for the German people required him to resist the state at precisely the point where the state was asking for what only God is entitled to. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was arrested in 1943 and executed at Flossenburg prison in April 1945. Just weeks before the war ended. What made Bonhoeffer capable of that? It wasn't a superior will or an unusual tolerance for suffering. It was a settled, clear-eyed understanding of where and to whom he belonged. He knew that the church is older and more resilient than any government. He knew the kingdom of Christ outlasts every regime. He knew that his first and final loyalty could not be to any flag or party or movement, however urgent that may have felt in the moment. That knowledge did not make him passive. It made him free. So free, in fact, that the guards who witnessed his execution remarked on how calm and poised he was as he walked to his death. the death that he had already described from his prison cell as a supreme festival on the road to freedom. Isn't this the refrain that so many of us need right now? The person who holds earthly citizenship with open hands, who knows their ultimate security does not rest on any political outcome, is actually more capable of faithful civic engagement than the one who has turned politics into a salvation project. The anxious partisan, in the end, is less useful to the common good than the grounded, free, kingdom-centered citizen who can serve sacrificially without being consumed. Daniel served Babylon well. Bonhoeffer loved Germany deeply. Neither of them belonged to those places ultimately. And that's precisely what made their engagement so honorable, courageous, and free. Let's go back to the question we started with. What do you do when your government wants more from you than your conscience will allow? You give it what it's owed, generously and well. You work for the peace of the place that you're in. You bring your whole self to the hard, ordinary, important work of civic life. And when the line is crossed, when the government asks for what only God deserves, you do what Daniel did. You open your windows toward Jerusalem and you pray. Not because you're looking for a fight, but because you know where and to whom you ultimately belong.